probably head out west, where things got a little heated last night. There wasn't any rain out there in California, where, remember we told you this story, of course, where the federal government, the Department of Homeland Security, is now busing those illegal immigrants there, with those mom and those children inside that bus, trying to make it their way through these protests here to try to get to this facility, this processing facility, where they're going to do health checks, make sure that they got water and food. And of course, the protests erupted. There was a big town hall meeting, though, last night, where things got even more heated.
Right, but the reason why they were there is because Texas couldn't handle it. So the feds decided, hey, we can't handle it, what's going on right here in Texas, so we're going to get and bus the illegals actually over to Marietta. But the residents there were not having it. Initially, they actually turned one of the buses around due to their protests. And last night at a town hall in an auditorium that seats about 750 people, they were fired up because they're concerned about safety. This is a bit of it.
You have a handle, a real handle, on what this is costing us out of our pockets. And please, use the word illegal aliens. They came across here illegally.
I do not have the exact cost up to date. What we did establish on the first night that we started the planning process is we did identify the need for a funding code so we can track every single hour that is spent on this. Now, at the end of this, do I have a plan to send Washington, D.C. a big fat bill? You bet. Do I have any faith? Do I have any faith that would be paid? No. But we're going to try. That's the only thing we can do. Our number one priority, sir, was the safety of our residents.
If I break the law, you're going to come down on me real quick. And yet, you are not following the law. You are breaking the law.
And what they're frustrated is that particular town you're in Southern California, they've been asked to process hundreds of people per day. And these are people, like Elizabeth said, because so many people are flooding across our southern border into Texas. They're gathering them in Texas. They're escorting them in. Our Border Patrol is. They're not actually patrolling the border. They're mainly being babysitters in many cases. And then they're putting them on airplanes, flying them to other spots throughout the country, and then they're processing them. And the people in Marietta didn't want the people to come in there because inevitably they're going to wind up being released into the general population. And who's going to pay for all that? There were all sorts of people there. There were members of ICE last night, Homeland Security, the county supervisors. The feds actually got booed when they tried to assure people that these children, these mothers, are given health checks before they're allowed in. Listen.
Every individual, before they are put on a plane and sent over here, they are medically cleared. There are doctors.
That was Chief Border Patrol Agent Paul Beeson there being met with some resistance and a lot of boos. Again, remember, that's a big auditorium, seats 750, so a lot of boos there. 4 of the immigrants had to be hospitalized, he said. 2 found with scabies, 2 with fevers. More boos.
And what's happening is, I mean, they're coming from Guatemala. This is a humanitarian crisis. You know, Nancy Pelosi can call it an opportunity all she wants, but it's an absolute crisis. They're coming from Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras, being hidden inside of train compartments, dehydrated. These little kids that don't have access to food, being part of these smuggling operations that are coming across the border. So they're coming across. And one group that has gotten no attention in all of this, which I think has been great, has been the Catholic Charities. The Catholic Charities, where the federal government has failed in this. The Catholic Charities has come in and grabbed these kids, giving them food, shelter, and taking care of them. But it's heartbreaking. See these little pictures of these little kids on cement floors with a Red Cross blanket wrapped around them. It's heartbreaking.
Those pictures are taken early on, too.
Sure. And you see the images of the kids, and your heart breaks for them. Oh, wait a minute. We haven't seen many images of the kids.
Right.
There is an Oklahoma congressman by the name of Jim Bridenstine. He wanted to take a look at the immigrant processing center in his state of Oklahoma at Fort Sill. Every gate was chained. He went up to the person, the people at the checkpoints, and he said, let me in. I'm a member of Congress.
Sure.
You know, I've got some oversight here. And there you can see the security stopped him everywhere. And he was told eventually, come back in 3 weeks when we're able to, you know, clean things up and have a good shot at things. He was on with Greta last night. He's frustrated. He says, what do they have to hide?
I said, I want to be really clear. You understand I'm a member of Congress. And they said, yes. I talked to the Deputy Communications Director for HHS. I actually didn't talk to him. I talked to his assistant, who said if I would like to talk to him, I can send an email. I said, I want to be clear. I'm a member of Congress. I'd like to talk to the gentleman. She put me on hold. She came back later, and she said, well, the best way to communicate with him is with email. That's what he'd prefer. I'm on the Armed Services Committee. I'm on the subcommittee on oversight. The reports I'm hearing that these children are going through, it's devastating. And what is it that they're trying to hide? Why is it they don't want me talking to these children, some of which have devastating stories?
So meanwhile, the President of the United States is going to fly to Texas to get to the bottom of this.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, wait, no, he's actually flying to Texas for something else, for a fundraiser. Yeah. When pressed about it yesterday, Major
To raise money for the immigrant children?
No, actually to raise money for the Democratic Party.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
To help Democrats who are on the ballot for November. The President, though, when asked about this at this press conference yesterday in front of the press secretary, I'm sorry, when the press secretary was asked about this, pressed on this, the optics of this whole thing. Right. So during this crisis, you're going to fly to Texas. You're not going to go to the border, but you're going to go raise money for Democrats.
Right. He wouldn't even call it a fundraiser.
Right.
He said he happens to be at a party where perhaps we know that it's going to cost about $32,000 for some of the tickets here. He's just going to go and meet with some people preparing for the next election and maybe perhaps think about collecting some funding for that, but not a fundraiser, and certainly not at the border, where Rick Perry invited him to be specifically, and has done this numerous times, sent a few letters his way and said, hey, we got a problem here, thinking our commander-in-chief might want to show up. No, instead, party people in the House tonight, President Obama will be fundraising at parties.
And you know what? Rick Perry extended that invitation to the President of the United States on this program yesterday, made big news, and yet the President's not going to go. Perhaps he simply doesn't want to see what his non-enforcement of our southern border looks like, the toll it's taking upon children, or then again, maybe he just doesn't want to catch whatever some of these kids are bringing into the country,
exactly.
Unfortunately.
And he would have to raise money for the Democrats in the fall. Meanwhile, let's